the room.
Okay. 10 minutes.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Felipe. Welcome to my channel. And with me, I got my best friend, Yang Lee, who was in the Navy 4 years. And I got Christian Quesada, high school friend, and he was in the Air Force for about 6 years. So today we're going to talk to them about their time of the service and why they hung up their uniform. All right. So, Yang, do you want to give a quick introduction, and then we'll move over to Christian after?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Yang Lee. I'm about 31 years old. Right out of high school in about 2011, 2012, I ended up joining the Navy. And I did that for about 4 years, and I got out in 2016. So.
Okay. My name is Christian. I was actually working in the same grocery store as Yang.
Yep.
I saw him that he was going to join the military, and I was like, man, that sounds like a good idea. So I decided to join the Air Force. I signed a 6-year contract.
Cool. And for those of you guys that don't know, I was a captain of the Marines. I did about 7 years, just over 7 years. I was a ground supply officer. All right. MOS?
So for me, I was an AO, so an aviation ordnance. So I pretty much handled like all the bombs and missiles, but then my ship. So I was on an aircraft carrier. I was on a CVN 74, USS John C. Stennis. I was stationed up there in Washington State, Bremerton to be exact, but I just kind of tell people Seattle, just so they could understand, the geographical area. But yeah, I was an AO, and when I separated, I was a third class petty officer.
So in the Air Force, we call it the AFSC. I was a avionics technician, 28354B. I worked on the F-15 fighter jets, and basically, working as a kind of like basically electronic mechanic on the flight line.
Okay. And as far as like the E, I don't know the petty officer and the airman. So the E wise, like what's your rank?
I was an E4.
E4?
I got out as an E4, yeah.
All right, cool.
Senior airman.
Awesome. All right, guys. So we're just going to jump right into it and going to ask you guys the hard questions, okay? So good and hard, all right?
Shoot away.
That's what she said, right? All right. What are the 3 things you liked about the branch you served in?
I think the first and foremost is I like the fact that everyone came from all corners of the U.S.
Diversity.
So that would be like the main one. I was able to get different perspectives, different backgrounds, different cultures of everybody, and I got along with everyone. And what was crazy is we all kind of got together watching anime. Everybody watched anime. It doesn't matter if they were a country from the Midwest, Southern, if they were from Compton, LA, if they were white, black, Hispanics, and it was crazy. It was crazy, how much anime influenced a lot of people. Second was, for me, in the Navy, it was traveling. So I love to travel. When I go on deployment, every month we would hit a port for about 3 to 4 days. And so we would get time to, explore the city or the country. And third, I guess you could say you get to really learn to be independent. Because a lot of young people, when they grow up and when they get out of the home, a lot of times they're like maybe one city over, maybe even one state or a couple of states over, but they're still in the country. But for me, although I was in the country, once you go on deployment, it's 8 months, 9 months. So those are probably the 3 things that.
Real quick, Yang, how many deployments did you do?
I did 2 deployments. My first one was 6 months because I came in when my ship was already out at sea, about a month and a half, 2 months in. And then my last deployment was about 8 months.
Okay, and where'd you go for the deployments?
So it depends on where you're stationed at. So if you're stationed on the West Coast, typically you'll hit all of like the Asian continents or the Asian countries. And then you also hit the Middle East. And then if you're on the East Coast, you hit all the European countries. If you're like South, you hit all like the South American countries, stuff like that. So I was stationed in Washington, Bremerton, and my deployments were towards that of Asian countries. and even the Middle East. So I've been to Dubai, Singapore, Manila, Busan, Korea. Um, Unfortunately, I missed Thailand, but it would have been fun.
All right, Christian. Same question for you. What are the three things you liked about the branch you served in?
You know, honestly, there was nothing I really liked, to be honest. Not to sound all salty, but it was more like I saw so many things that I didn't like that it helped me realize what I do like. And it was everything that was not in the military. The more I look back on my experience, yeah, like I really, realized how much I miss California. I have a whole California tattoo tribute to this beautiful state. I didn't like the people that were in there. Definitely not my kind of people. I saw how like ugly America is. America's ugly. there's some, there's just some places. I spent a lot of time in the East Coast and the South, and I just saw like, man, there's a lot of places that are just sad and depressing. And I lived in a small town, and it was just awful. And so there was so much that I didn't like that I found out what I really liked, and it was everything that was not associated with like the military or various parts of America. So I think it's more along of that realm, right?
Okay, and we're gonna get into it as far as like what they didn't like. But just to give you guys some context, like we're talking about why we hung up our uniform, right? Right. What made us kind of transition out and take that next step outside of the service and move forward with our lives. So okay, that being said, Yang, what is something you miss about the Navy?
I think I miss the people. Of course, you're gonna get the good and the bad people, but since they come from all walks of life, in all corners of the U.S. Yeah, I got to know some really really good people, and I got to learn a lot from a lot of people. Um, and on top of that, it's also the traveling. When you sacrifice 1 month out at sea, and then when you hit port, it makes everything worth it. And then when you finish with your port and you go out to sea again, yes, it's like a month, but after like a week or two past, you're already anticipating and expecting the next port. So it makes like those weeks go by very very fast. And then with you hitting each port, it makes the deployment that much faster. And especially if you're single. But if you are married, it's a bit more difficult with you having wife and kids at home or what have you. So
Christian, same question for you. What is something you miss? And I'm
I
gonna
mean,
jump the gun here and say nothing.
I mean, honestly, there's really nothing that I miss, to be
Okay.
honest. Like I said, I don't really. A lot of the people in the military are not my kind of people. They're not people that I would hang out with. I'm not somebody that like watches sports, shoots guns. Just not my kind of people. I didn't really get to travel. I lived in North Carolina for 5 years. Didn't really, go anywhere exciting. Didn't really do anything exciting. It was just basically like going to go work at an airport in a small town in North Carolina.
Just normal job.
I guess the only thing that you could say that I actually miss, and as weird as it sounds, is boot camp, because that was the only time I actually felt like I was really in the military. Like it was a very unique experience. Like the marching and stuff. Like I've never felt that kind of sense of pride for my country. It was very like it was a really cool experience. And if I could replay, even in my whole life, like one time, I would love to replay those 2 months. But outside of that, no, it was pretty disappointing. It was pretty boring.
Okay. All right. And then I do want to interject again. We're all from the same town, Pomona, California, and the only people that are still living in the town is me and Christian. And Yang has moved out. He is now in the
Central
city,
Cali.
Central Cali.
Yep.
The desert, probably. But all right, guys. So the next question, I'm gonna jump into it. And I know Christian, you probably got a lot to say. You got a lot to say. But Yang, let's hear yours first. What are 3 things you dislike?
3 things I dislike. I would say that when you go out to sea, when you go on deployment, your hours get extended. So like when you're on stateside, and you're not going anywhere, your hours are 8 hours a day, right? 5 days a week. You get the weekends off, and then one day out of the week you have your duty day. But then when you go out to sea, it's different. And depending on your rating or your MOS, you know your hours could be from 12 hours a day to 16, 18 hours a day. I know that a lot of the aviation rates that they handle, like fueling or handling of aircraft up there in the flight deck, yeah, they're out there working like 14, 16, 18 hours a day. And so they barely have time to sleep or even like study for their advancement. But for me in particular, mine was 12 hours. So it wasn't too good and it wasn't too bad. Um, I still have time to like work out, hit the gym, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's the hours, and like if you make, I don't know, like $24,000 a year, you don't get that overtime.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing. Second is I do dislike quite a few of like your superiors. Who's like if I'm an E4, E5, E6, some of them, they're power hungry. They like to flex their authority, right? And so you kind of see who's cool, who doesn't really flex, and who you can really respect versus those who you're just like, oh man, dude, this guy is just trying to, he's just trying to show off, or he's just trying to like, you know, um, do power moves or even abuse it. Third, uh, um, third, I would say the bullshit that comes with it. I mean, I understand that any job anywhere you deal with bullshit, but it seems like it's much more amplified, especially in the military. A lot of bullshit that you got to deal with, especially with people who want to abuse their power. They just make you do something, just to show that that they're higher up in ranking than you are, right? And on top of that, a lot of the work that you can potentially even get put on too. So
Working parties.
yeah,
Go mop the rain.
Hey, dude. You guys joke, but like I'll tell you, like I did an internship with this company called Amgen. I told the senior that I was like, I genuinely like working for this company so much. I love the leadership. The people were awesome, and I told the one of the executives, I was like, look, I don't really care what you want me to do. I'll go fucking mop the rain outside. Just pay me what I'm worth, and like
Pay me 30 hours to mop the rain.
Yeah, I'll do whatever you want me to do, bro. All right. So, Christian, same question for you. What are 3 things you disliked about the Air Force?
So first is the freedom. Freedom. Yeah, you just lose a lot of your freedom. That's number one. You don't get to pick where you get to live, who you get to be around. You just can't quit. And I think for me, it made me, like I said, like my military experience made me realize the things that I do like, because I saw the things I didn't like. And so number one, my highest value above everything is my freedom. And in the military, you never really get your freedom. Like even if you're on vacation, you still have the eyes of the military on you. If you get a DUI, they're going to hear about it, and then your life is going to get worse when you go back to base. Or if you get stationed in like Japan, you could be living off base, and you could have a curfew on you off base. You could be in Tokyo, and someone says, hey man, this guy in the military, he's not supposed to be here at 1 a.m. They can make that call, and then boom, you're on a plane back, and you're getting in trouble. So number one is your freedom.
Yeah.
Second would be quality of life. Like I think if you go, you can be living in Hawaii in the military, or you can be living in New Mexico. Hills have eyes, bro. Like there's a lot of hills have eyes out there, so you don't get to pick like your quality of life necessarily. You can go and you know, next thing you know, you're on deployment and you're with some people that stink and don't take showers. You know, it's just a lot of the things come from like your freedom being taken away.
Yeah, people that don't know how to wash their fucking clothes.
Yeah.
And you get that a lot, especially when you get 18, 19-year-olds that
people are
they show up to the military and then like they don't know how to do laundry.
No.
And I saw you guys. I saw that shit a lot in the barracks, like those Marines. Yeah, and I'm sure it's the same across the other branches, right? That they just don't know.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know how to properly use the detergent, the softener, and all that stuff. So
yeah, and you know what? I want to piggyback off that because there's like sometimes this happens. It's like a pandemic within the ship when we're out at sea, where people they're unhygienic. They go, you know, they go take a dump or they go pee and they don't wash their hands and they start touching doorknobs, and so there's like this pandemic going around. We call it the double dragon, where you get sick and you're literally puking and shitting at the same time. And so it gets so bad. I've never gotten that. So you know you
double dragon.
You can tell that, you know, I was clean, but yeah, there were people, guys, dudes around me. Yeah, they would get the double dragon, shitting and throwing up at the same time. You know, multiple times a day for a couple of days. It's so bad.
Oh, okay. And then my last one is like relationships in the military. Like that's a whole struggle, uphill battle, dude. Like, you know, being in a relationship in the military, there's just a lot of griminess going on.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, it's funny. I touched on this at one of my other videos, you know, about why you shouldn't date other service members. And just to like, for the people, you know, everybody that watches this, like, do you think service members should date other service members?
No. No, not at all. Especially in the Navy, we call them boat goggles, where, you know, once you're out at sea, even in the military, and, you know, when you're not out at sea and when you're out at sea, girls who are like 5s, they become 7s. Girls who are like 3s become, you know, 5s, you know, like average looking, and then they start to look good to you, you know, especially for the guys.
What would you say it's a what? A boat goggle?
Boat goggles.
Boat goggle.
Yeah,
gotcha.
boat goggles.
Boat goggles.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, it's like the you know, the marriage and the divorce rates in the military. It's so bad to the point where, you know, like military members don't get married for like, you know, they'll know each other for just a few weeks, a few months. They get married and then they divorce like 5 months later. You know, I've only probably witnessed like 2 marriages, maybe give or take, out of like, you know, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 marriages that, you know, that survive. And, you know, even now they're still married and they have kids, you know, while like the rest of the marriages all fell apart. So.
And, you know, real quick, I do want to touch on this, but I know all you motherfuckers out there in 29 Palms, North Carolina, the middle of bumfuck nowhere, got those boat goggles on. You know, like,
yeah.
You want to know why? Because I had them when I was in 29 Palms.
I had them too.
I
had them too.
I didn't. You know, I did not participate in the griminess. No, I'd even go far and say, like, I wouldn't, even as a civilian, and if a woman told me she was in the military, nope, done. It's like, no, I'm not. I know I have mental images of what went on. Okay,
and we're gonna get into that today. He promised to tell us like the grimiest shit.
Like, what I would do is, if you have a girlfriend, let's say you're in the military, you have a girlfriend, don't even bring her to the base, dude. Just you fly out and go see her, and that's it. You want her to be away from all that stuff because it starts to affect your mind, dude. Yeah. There's something in the air, dude.
The water, bro.
The water, dude. That Cameroon water, bro. Yeah, so I would want to keep a woman away from that environment as much as possible. There's something in that environment that's just not good for relationships. You know, it's awful.
Yeah, and I know, like, if anybody watches this in the service, like, I definitely want to hear your guys' opinion. You guys can comment that, leave a like. I don't know, send me a DM. Definitely want to hear about that, about other people's stories, because I know some wild shit that's happened. So. And so I'm going to jump into number 4. And number 4 is, before we get into the juicy stuff, last question, all right. Question 4 is, what advice would you give someone who is thinking about joining or has just joined or is thinking about re-enlisting or transitioning out of the service?
Well, you know, like I'll tell you guys straight up, you know, if you're considering the military, you finish your bachelor's and go in as an officer, because You get double the pay, you get more respect, and you get potentially better food. My experience in the Navy, officers, you get automatic BAH, so you get paid to live outside the base. So anyone enlisted can live inside the base. Two, when we go out at sea, officers they get like their own little room to sleep in. They get their own cafeteria, if you will, um, where they get all the good food and then they get better treatment. When we go out at sea, they're the first one to that the ship or the captain allows you to go out. Um, yeah, so it's just so much more perks that come with being an officer. Now, if you don't want to finish your bachelor's and you're thinking about the military, I would say leave it as a last resort. But if you want to go to kind of like discipline yourself, you don't know what you really want to do, then go into the Air Force, because the Air Force is easier. You have it a little bit more easier. You don't travel, but yeah, you definitely have it easier than the rest of the branches. Second is, if you don't want the Air Force, then definitely the Navy, because you get to travel, and especially if you're single and you're traveling and you hit all of those ports, yeah, it's a much more better experience, right? The only thing you probably get is like homesick, but
And
you,
chlamydia.
Double dragon, dude.
There's this term, there's this term that maybe it's like if you like maybe contracted an STD and you don't want people to know, there's like this term that you use that only like the medical officers or the medical staff, they know, and then they'll like get like a like a test kit for you for example. But yeah, that's what I would recommend to any of you who are thinking about joining re-enlistment. It depends on if you have a plan. If you want to get out after, let's just say, 10 years, just make sure that you have a plan. You kind of know what you want to do and get into, so you can just jump straight into it. And if you want to re-enlist, hey, by all means, because once you finish that 20 years, you get to retire and get paid for life. So those would be my recommendations and or suggestions.
All right. Before we go to Christian, I do want to touch on a couple things that Yang was talking about. Yang talked about bachelor's officer pay. Definitely get paid a little more as an officer, but you guys got to remember he was talking about working, 8 to 18 hours. Whether you're an officer or company grade officer, that is O1 to O3, E1 to like E7, you're making like $10 an hour, probably like $7 an hour, depending, how many of those shifts you're working, how many of those weeks, those months. So you got to take all that into consideration, right? Even with the housing allowance that you get. So, but the other thing I do want to touch on is whether you jump in or not into the service, you got to do your disability. You got to document everything. So when you get out, you do your disability claim. If you get 100%, you're talking about almost $4,000 a month. That's about $50,000 a year of non-taxable income. And then the other thing is your GI Bill. And depending where you're at, like if you go to school in Riverside County, LA County, it's a significant difference. Riverside County, for example, GI Bill is going to pay you about $2,600 a month. And then if you're in LA County and Orange County, San Diego County, it's like $3,500 to like $3,800 a month for your GI Bill for housing allowance alone, non-tax money. So, I mean, you're talking about 70, 80 grand of non-tax money that's going to come into you, guaranteed. So, all right. Christian, what advice would you give someone who is thinking about joining, has just joined, and or is thinking about re-enlisting?
So same thing. Well, with the military, you want to do something that's like specialized, like officers, one route, but you can also do like special forces, and it goes back to like your treatment and quality of life. Like if you're something specialized in the military, you're gonna get treated like how the officers get treated. I knew people that were special forces, and it's almost like a different military. Like you have the regular military, and then you have special forces people, pilots, officers. Like we would get regular medicine, and then there's flight medicine, right? Like if you're a pilot in the Air Force, it's a whole different clinic you go to, and you get seen right away. Something hurts and they can't help you, they'll refer you right away to off base. And you don't even have to be an officer for that, or a pilot. Like one example is being like a load master, your air crew, right? So when you go TDY, you get your own hotel room because you need your rest, because you're air crew. You're not even flying the plane, but you're considered air crew. So you get your own hotel, They make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. Being a linguist, right? Being an Air Force linguist, you're considered air crew. You get a top secret clearance that helps you on the outside. With a top secret clearance, you get out, you could be making six figures in Washington, D.C. When you go to training, you're basically going to college for 2 years in Monterey Bay, California. That's your technical training. And it's literally like college, where they don't want to put stress on you because you're literally studying a whole language. It takes 2 years. So yeah, I would recommend, if you're going to join, try to avoid just being like a grunt, a mechanic, just something that's like basic and replaceable. Because the more specialized you are, whether it be air crew, officer, linguist, special forces, you're just going to get a different experience in the military. So I recommend do your research, and try to get into a specialized field. It doesn't have to necessarily be officer. It could be air crew, it could be linguist. You can even go into cyber security in the Air Force. You get a top secret clearance. It just gives you more options. You get treated better. You're around better people.
Yeah, and something I'll touch on in that is like with Christian, what Christian was saying is that you definitely want to specialize and even maybe even carry that on outside of this military once you decide to get out. And I give you guys, for example, myself, ground supply officer, did supply chain management in the Marine Corps my entire time. 6 days after my end of service, my terminal, December 6th, I got offered even before that, I had 2 job offers over 100,000. So it's out there for you guys. Those opportunities are out there. Don't think the military is an end all be all. There are companies out there that will pay you way more money for having a top secret clearance, having the experience in that field. So those opportunities are out there for you. Yeah. And then now you tack on your disability. If you rate any of it, and you most likely will, just, do your research. And then your GI Bill, man, you're talking about easy, $200,000 coming out. If you have that specialization, you get those job offers. So there's way more opportunity, because what Yang was saying is that you're talking about making about $24,000 as a E1 to E4 annual, right? And maybe now it's a little more, because Yang's been out for how long?
Yeah, 6, 7, 8 years.
6, 7, 8 years. So yeah, he's been out for quite some time. So I know they've done some increases, but either way, you can't beat it. You're talking about 4 or 5 times your income, and if you're living here in California, you're gonna need it. So all right. What about if anybody that is thinking about re-enlisting or EAS and
re-enlisting? If you're gonna re-enlist, some people have an amazing military experience. They go from Hawaii to Japan to Florida. There's some people that just haven't made that way, and it's like, if you like it and if it's for you. And I've seen people they get married in the military. Both them and their wives are like great, and they're just bouncing from great base to great base. That does exist. I've seen it. I say it's very unlikely. It's very rare. But if you're unhappy, if you're only unhappy, dude, follow your heart and get out. And I think it will help you more, to get out and to find a civilian career,
Yeah.
And to make sure, just always do your research. Here's one thing too, a lot of people, just even in the military, they're just kind of dumb, bro. They don't know what to, they have, thankfully we have the internet. You can try to go on Reddit and you can get better information about what to do as you're getting out, VA claims, disability, stuff like that. Go on Reddit, you'll find better people to talk to than the people immediately around you. So I would highly recommend, before you get out, before you make a decision, go online. The answers you're looking for are on there. Even me being out 5 years, I'm finding out these answers through the internet. And I look back at the people I was around when I was getting out, and it was like most of them had no idea what they were talking about. So
yeah, and what, I want to take it back like a why, right, as to why I separated after 4 years. So since my rating, my original rate was, I was an undesignated airman, right? So that's why my contract was about 4 years, right? So it pretty much means like I could be thrown out there to any aviation job, right? And so that's why when I got in, I was thrown into the AO, and I struck the rate. But the reason why I got out was, I saw what was everything. My experience, in the military was great. I didn't love it, but I didn't dislike it or hate it, right? But I was doing everything right. I was doing what I was told. I was knocking out. I was in the Navy. I was an EP sailor, right? Those are pretty much like the best evaluation that you could get. And but I always knew that I could do better. That there's much more opportunities out there. Like when you hit 18, you don't know what you want to do, in life, and you don't really take the time to really look at all the opportunities out there, especially in the civilian world, until you go into the military and you go through it and you're like, oh shit, there's so much more out there that I haven't even explored, right? And so when I got out, actually, my supervisors, my chief, my E6s, my E5s, they all guilt tripped me to stay in because I was a good sailor. Like whatever they asked me, hey Lee, I need you to do this. I'm like, oh, I got you, chief, I got you. AO6, and so everything that I did, they valued me so much that that's why they guilt trip me, and I understand. So because they need like you need competent sailors, you need sailors that are going to get shit done, right? Or even military members in general, right? And but I always knew that I was gonna I could do better, and so that's why I decided to get out even after all the guilt trip. They're like, what are you gonna do out there? You're not gonna have a steady income anymore. You're not going to have all of the medical and dental benefits anymore. I'm like, you know what, that's fine. Like I'll figure it out for myself. And then that's when like I got out, boom, transition out. I jumped straight into college. I wanted to do IT, and so my profession is IT. I'm a network analyst or a network engineer, and so I got out, and then everything just kind of went well from there. Jump into college. Cousin hooked me up with an IT job, and then everything just kind of scaled up from there. So that's why I got out. So
All right. So for my last question, and we'll keep it short because I know we're running out of time, and these guys don't got their shoes on, so it's starting to smell. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It does not smell. It does not smell. All right.
the house clean.
Yeah. All right. So the last question, and we'll take a few minutes each person. But what is the wildest story, dirty or not, grimy as shit, or like the most juiciest story you can give us? That whether you heard or you saw happen real time in the service.
You know what? There's like one or two. So as soon as I got into the military, and as soon as I got into my ship, because since my ship was out in the middle of the sea, and I finished boot camp, they flew me out to Bahrain, and then from Bahrain I took the cod straight onto the ship as the ship was out in the middle of the sea moving. I got down there in not even like a week. I got like 1 terabyte full of porn already, and two of those videos were actually from girls from the ship. So there's dudes out there, running trains on these girls, recording it and then passing it.
They call it the spank bank, huh? The spank bank.
Yeah, so
that's sad.
I see those girls too. I see them working, walking around. Of course, I don't say anything, but yeah, it's the girls. They get passed around, and it's. I mean, it could be good or bad depending on how you look at it, but I mean, girls, when there's like such a small percentage of them, right? When like let's just say 10%, of 5,000, crew members of the ship are girls, and the rest are men. Imagine how much attention are those girls receiving, right? So now those regular girls, they think they're hot shit, and so they have a big ego, and then everything just kind of goes downhill from there for them. And so then there was that.
You smashed one? You ran a train on one?
Me, I ended up smashing.
I was totally kidding, bro. I ended up
smashing a girl within my division. And she let's just say I became Tono Brothers with a lot of dudes, black, white dudes, Mexicans. But I give her respect though, because here's why. As long as you were funny, she was down, and she had a body. She wasn't like the best looking, but she was cute. But as long as you were funny, you could be a nerd. So she was saving lives. she was saving lives for these nerds, these geeks that
Saving
you know
lives,
they,
bro.
they don't have social skills, and as long as they were kind of funny and she kind of find them funny, like she was down, and so it was.
Hey guys,
Cool.
disclaimer, all right? Everything, everything we say here, like this, is our personal experiences that we want to share out there. Let you guys, give you guys an experience of what it was for us being in something that maybe you guys may encounter. So I'm not saying run a train on women, and I'm not saying be tunnel buddies with the entire shit. But all right. All right, so real quick, because I only got a few more minutes left. Christian, what is your story?
I mean, there's just so many, like, but I'll just say this, like, I got there, in the Air Force, they're called dormitories. They're not called barracks. So it's kind of like, we all have our own room, but some people it was called a quad. There was like 4 people, 4 rooms, one like living room. And, what's it called? There was a airman who made a girlfriend. She wasn't even in the military. She was off base. She was in the town, and he brought her over inside to hang out with everybody, and she slept around with everybody in the quad. And being like 21, 22, I was just like, wow, like this is just unreal. Like I can't believe this is happening.
You thought military would be military, if it would be professional. But
yeah, it was just a bunch of monkeys, dude. Like, dude, it's just like animalistic behaviors. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, like, I never participated. Okay, I am not. People say no. Honestly, like I am not. I have never been with an Eskimo brother or a tunnel buddy with anybody that I know.
That's not true. Have you been with a woman?
I have. Well, I mean that I know. Like I personally think that's kind of gross, man. I don't know who.
Brothers out there.
Yeah, you got brothers.
Not that I don't even know them. So like, I'm so thankful that I can go ahead and say that. Because that's kind of, honestly, the more you think about it, that's kind of gross, bro.
Yeah.
That's just nasty, dude. So I never participated. I stayed away from all that stuff because, it's just kind of gross to me.
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty nasty, dude. You really think about it, man. And I just.
Like looking back.
Yeah, looking back, right? Like, would you, hindsight 2020, would you have still participated? Would you have still,
Dude, I mean, to give you guys some context, like, you're young, you're 19, 20, your testosterone's off the fucking roof, right? You're in an environment where there isn't a lot of women, and you get the boat goggles, right? And so, like, I don't regret the decisions I've made and I've done, right? And, like, I've been tunnel buddies with, buddies before, and, but, like, at the end of the day, like, I don't regret any of it, and it was an learning experience, and I can look back and be like, yeah, man, that shit was fucking gross, but you get out of your system, and you move forward and settle down. Yang's married now, and Christian's soon to be married with his left hand, and but all right, last question before we end this, and dude, you guys are awesome, and you guys have so much more to tell, so I do want to bring you guys on again, obviously, and we'll do maybe some one-on-ones to get some more details.
Let's see what the comment section wants.
Yeah, and the last question, was the military everything you thought it was going to be? Yes or no?
Yes, because well, at least my experience, right? Because I mean, of course, you got to understand that at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? So I kind of like think of the military or the Navy and the ship when you're out at sea as like we're high school again. It's like the whole world condensed into the ship, right? And you hear rumors spread super fast. You deal with a lot of stuff that it's outside the military too. Regards to like divorce, regards to adultery, even like fraternization too. So, but like that didn't kind of change my mind on what I think about the military, and especially like in the Navy. And of course, I mean, it's different, for like the Marines and stuff like that. But me, everything hit me as soon as I got on the COD, and the COD flew out of Bahrain and onto the ship in the middle at sea while the ship is moving. And as soon as I got out, boom, everything hit me all at once. And I'm like, oh shit, this is real. We're out at sea. I see F-18s flying. You know, I see helos flying.
Mm.
You know, I see catapults being launched. I see, you know, freaking all of these crew members, you know, out on the flight deck, you know, handling and retrieving, you know, equipment and stuff like that, right? And then what's also awesome, and I will never forget this, is the day that I separated, and it was like 2 months before I separated. You know, I had to get surgery. I had to get a hernia surgery, right, done in the States. So they flew me out 2 months early for my deployment. And as soon as I flew out at sea, I got launched from the catapult, you know, on the aircraft carrier, and it was an amazing experience. You know, you sit facing backwards, and when they launch you at like, I don't even know, 200, 250 miles per hour, dude, your all of your limbs are like in midair like this until until you reach the end and you actually fly out. So it was such an amazing experience, you know, and during my time in the Navy.
Christian, was it worth it for you? Yes or no?
No,
No?
no, I don't think it was, to be honest with you. Like I said, you know, he actually had this feeling of when he went out to sea, he felt like he was in the military. The only time I got that feeling was boot camp. Really. Other than that, after boot camp, it was just like I lived in a small town and I worked at the airport.
Yeah.
You know, there was fighter jets, but like it's like when you go to an air show and you see fighter jets, you're like, oh, fighter jets, but it's not like you feel like you're in the military. It's not like you're out sea.
It's a normal job.
It was just a job, really. It was just working at the airport, and so it was a disappointment for sure, 100%.
Would you think that like depending on like your job in the in the Air Force, that that your experiences might be different? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you were special forces, dude, you would feel like you're in the military. Like your helicopters, jumping out of planes, but like you know what I'm saying? Like you being and you being out at sea like that, and you're seeing F-18s and you're seeing a destroyer next to you. Like there was nothing like that, in my in my military service, So yeah, it was honestly it was pretty disappointing.
Yeah, so your job can impact your experiences. Like if you're pushing paper, right? If you get a job and you're pushing paper, like your HR, like that's all you're going to do, And then like the only real experience that you probably get is like when you go out to sea, right? Because you're pushing paper every day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. It's like your job. It's what you end up doing. If you're load master flying on a C-17, dropping cargo, you feel like you're in the military. But if you're just in finance,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I gotta cut it short. So thank you, and I really appreciate you guys being here today.